Welcome.
to Dark Narratives. I'm Isabella.
And I'm Alexandria.
We have our vacation coming up at the end of June,
How
which
long
I'm
are you gone
excited
for?
for. Like a week and a half.
Oh, good.
We rented a trailer
Yeah.
and get our trailer on the beach, and then you're literally camping on the sand, and then behind you is the rest of the big campground. So we actually last summer we rented a trailer. For this summer we booked it.
Oh,
So they
nice.
have trailer rentals. So we rented one that's directly on the beach. So we'll spend a week and a half out on this, or a week on this beach in this trailer, and then we're gonna take our time going there, me, Dylan, and the kids, and we'll stay at some hotels and go to different beaches on the way out.
Oh, that sounds so nice.
I am so freaking excited. I cannot wait for a vacation.
Yeah, and the summer and everything.
I'm so excited. Yeah. But yeah, that's what's going on. How was
Oh, yeah.
yesterday?
Good. Why? What was yesterday?
You went to it was good. Why? You went to go to that other branch, right?
Oh, no, I didn't have to go anymore.
Oh, well, good.
I've been training to do a run, and so I've been running a lot. I want to do it.
What?
Yeah,
That's
I want to do a run in
awesome.
August. And then somebody at work, they told me to listen to drum and bass while I was running, and it's kind of been the best tip that I've ever gotten.
Is it music?
Yeah, it's a type of music, so it's really upbeat. So
Okay, I love that because I've been really into running for quite a while now. I shouldn't say running.
oh
I like go on the treadmill and the elliptical, but I go quick on the elliptical and I call it a run.
yeah.
Because I don't have a treadmill. If I go to the treadmill, I'll go to my parents, but I have the elliptical. So anyways, I've been into that for like quite a while now.
You should
Out in the
look up
garage.
a drum and bass
I'm gonna
playlist.
write that down because I've been wondering, I've been trying to find music to help my run. Anyways.
Yeah. Okay, we'll start right away. Okay, today I wanted to talk about Tylenol, the
Oh
pill.
fuck. Okay, yes. Let's
Specifically
talk about some
Tylenol.
pharmaceuticals.
Yeah, this one's a really weird one. Specifically Tylenol back in 1982. I'm gonna get the year right this time. Um,
Yeah.
at the time, Tylenol was the absolute leader in the painkiller field, accounting for a 37% market share, outselling the next four leading painkillers combined. Tylenol was the most successful over-the-counter product in the US with over 100 million users. It was responsible for 19% of Johnson & Johnson's corporate profits during the first three quarters of 1982, and Tylenol accounted for 13% of Johnson & Johnson's year-to-year sales growth and 33% of the company's year-to-year profit growth. However, that all came to a horrific end in the fall of 1982.
Jesus
So,
Christ, as it kind of does with drugs.
I mean, they've redeemed themselves since this, but this was massive in the 80s. And in the 80s, it was the
I mean,
time
I use
before.
Tylenol, but yeah.
Yeah, I use it. Well, yeah, and I'll get to that because I use it all the time for my kids. It was the time before tamper-proof seals and pills were just sold with a little cotton ball tucked under the lid.
Oh
There was no
fuck.
child-proofing, and as you opened it, there was no silver foil or anything like that.
Uh,
Yeah.
that really
And
freaks me out.
yeah, there's just a little, like it's just a little twisty bottle with that cotton in it. In the Chicago area in the fall of 1982, people started dropping dead after taking extra strength Tylenol. And so I'll kind of go one by one, but the first report was on September 29th. 12-year-old Mary Kellerman from Elk Grove Village, Illinois. She wakes up feeling sick. Her parents let her stay home from school. And as you would, or at least I would, give my kid some Tylenol, right? Or some Advil.
Yeah.
Anything. Yeah, anything to help them feel better.
Hmm.
You
Be
wouldn't
able
even
to
think
get some
twice about
rest
it.
without, yeah.
Yeah, some comfort, something. And so her parents give her some Tylenol. She goes into the bathroom to take it, and moments later, she collapses on the floor.
Just like that.
Yeah, so super quick. Her parents rush her to the hospital. She wakes up feeling sick in the hospital, and at 9:56 a.m. the next morning, 12-year-old Mary is pronounced dead.
Dude, what the fuck?
They don't know why.
Just like
So
that.
after taking the Tylenol, they weren't sure, they weren't piecing it together that it was the Tylenol just yet.
Right.
Then, less than 10 miles away in Arlington Heights, Illinois, Adam Janus, a 27-year-old postal worker, he doesn't feel good that day. He takes a sick day from work, and on his way home from picking up the kids, so he has kids too from school, he stops in at a pharmacy called The Jewel, and he grabs some Tylenol, gets home, tells his wife, I'm going to take some Tylenol and lay down. A couple minutes later, he comes staggering into the kitchen. They rush him to the hospital, and unfortunately, he dies at 3:15 p.m. that day in the nearby
What?
hospital. The next person was Adam's family. So Adam's family was in shock, and they gathered that afternoon. And Adam's younger brother, Stanley, and his wife, Teresa, also took Tylenol from the same bottle, and both dropped dead on the floor. And then later pronounced dead.
Like
Well,
just
obviously,
like that, just
yeah,
fast.
so quick. They're just dropping. So
And
over
at
the
first,
next,
I mean, you wouldn't think that the Tylenol would be the reason.
no.
Because they were already saying they didn't feel well. That would be so shocking.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they don't feel well. So they're thinking underlying
Yeah.
causes. Over
Right.
the next few days, 3 more people in the Chicago suburbs would die after taking Tylenol. 3:40 p.m. on another day. I'm just kind of giving you a timeline of how like quickly this is
Yeah.
happening. I'm not sure the
Mhm.
exact day, but somewhere around the end of September and beginning of October. Mary Lynn Reiner, who is 27 at home in Winfield, she had just given birth to her fourth child. So she's home recuperating.
And needs
She,
fucking Tylenol.
yeah, she's not feeling good. Takes some Tylenol that she'd been given from the hospital after giving birth. And then 9:30 the next morning, she's pronounced dead.
Oh my
Then
God.
right after giving birth to a baby, then in a
Oh my
store
God.
in Lombard, Illinois at 6:30 p.m., Mary McFarland, a 31-year-old resident of Elmhurst, tells her coworkers she has a headache, and she goes in the back room, takes a couple of Tylenol, and within minutes she hits the floor. So it's at 8:15 p.m. Mary McFarland is pronounced dead.
What the hell?
So that's 6 already. So now the seventh victim is 35-year-old Paula Prince. At 5 p.m., police discovered the body of Paula Prince in her Old Town apartment. She's a flight attendant, and the night before, there's video surveillance of her going into a Walgreens because she had a headache and she bought some Tylenol, and she's not heard from for a couple of days. So the cops are sent there, a welfare check, and the bottle of Tylenol is sitting open on her vanity, and steps away, she's just collapsed on the ground. So
What the
that's seven
hell?
people
And
now.
all different locations too.
Well, yeah, but
Like
like
like got
Chicago
the
area.
Tylenol from different locations. But like
Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
Mm.
And so the first indication that Tylenol played a role in the deaths came when nurse Helen Jensen, a public health nurse for Arlington Heights, visited the Janus home and noticed that six capsules were missing from the same Tylenol bottle, saying, quote, I found a bottle of Tylenol and there were six capsules missing and 3 people were dead. In my mind, it had to be something to do with the Tylenol. And of course, there was no protection seals on any of this over-the-counter drugs.
Well, in that one family that
Yeah,
each
this
took
is so,
Tylenol from the same bottle and all died.
so this is where she is. She was at the home. She says, I went back to the hospital and took the bottle with her. And she said, this is the cause. And of course, nobody believed me. And I stamped my feet. They said, oh no, it couldn't be. It couldn't be. Like they had not pieced these things together yet. But I think once the brother and sister-in-law of the deceased died in the same home, they realized something was going wrong, end quote.
Of course. Yeah.
The investigator named P. Shows or Soch. I don't know. I'm gonna fuck this up.
That's
The
okay.
investigator named P. Schos. He sees that the Tylenol bottle, or sorry, how would you pronounce that?
I don't
Schos.
know, but anybody out there, you can correct us.
Yeah. He sees that the Tylenol bottles all have the same control numbers on them. So meaning they're coming from the same plant.
Right.
Like you said, they're all at different stores though.
All
He
got the
lets
same kind of shipment date.
Yes, So he lets the medical examiner know that they were all manufactured at the same time. And then the deputy medical examiner named Donahue tells him to smell the bottles, and he smells inside of them and he smells this sign of cyanide, which apparently smells like almond. Did you
Oh, okay. I didn't
apparently
know
that's
that.
like pretty well known and I didn't know that.
I didn't fucking know that. So,
Yeah, so I guess
whoops.
cyanide smells like
Okay.
pneumonia. Cyanide has a strong smell of almonds, and the medical examiner said how lucky he was because apparently only 50% of the population can actually smell the almond and cyanide. So probably wouldn't be us.
Well, I was just thinking to myself, I'm like, maybe I should go smell my almond bag because I don't really know what almonds smell like. I've never
Well,
thought
no,
about
we can
it.
smell almonds. We know how we can smell almonds, just like 50% of the population can't smell cyanide, can't smell the almond smell in cyanide. Isn't that interesting?
Oh, like the distinct. Okay. Like,
Yeah, like
I never paid attention to my
we're
almond
like,
bag
I
before.
don't know what almonds smell like. I know what
Anybody out
peanuts
there can
smell
describe
like.
what almonds smell like?
Yeah, creamy,
I literally
nutty
was thinking about
smell.
my almonds in the pantry. I'm like, I kind of want to go smell,
I was
smell my
thinking you'd
almonds.
no, it's the cyanide. Anyway,
That's funny. I don't have cyanide in my house. Okay.
well, you don't know that because it smells like almonds.
Fuck.
You don't even know if you can smell that because only
Yeah.
50% of the population can. So it turns out that the Tylenol pills were laced with potassium cyanide and a level toxic enough to provide thousands of fatal deaths. So each one of these pills had thousands. That's why they were hitting the ground immediately. It wasn't
Mhm.
in the bottle itself, but each pill contained that amount. So, like,
Jesus
if you had
Christ.
10 pills, each one could kill 1,000 people at a time.
Oh my
So,
God.
now, cyanide is a very potent chemical compound frequently found in either the form of salt or the form of gas. And if it's in salt form, it's used in industries to clean metals and jewelry, particularly gold. So, like a jeweler would have cyanide to clean, like the
Okay.
kind of who would
You
have
can't
it, I
just go
guess.
get cyanide. Yeah. Which good.
Well, yeah, well, if it's a form of gas, it's used for pest fumigations. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
Remember that one guy that bought a bunch of stuff off of eBay? You could probably buy it off eBay.
Honestly, you could probably buy anything off eBay.
Yeah,
Or like
exactly.
also we forget there's the dark web, the deep dark web. That's full of terrible secrets and terrible things. So I bet you can
But
get freaking anything on there.
cyanide doesn't seem to be too hard to get a hold of if it's at every jewelry store and it's for
Yeah.
pest fumigation. But it can also be used as a very fast acting poison in humans.
Oh, that
And
freaks me
so
out.
I know the pills had been bought at various stores, like we were saying, throughout the Chicago area, in
Mhm.
particular the north side. So the police thought a single person had bought all the pills at a different place, tampered with them, and then returned them to different stores. He bought a bunch at a time and then drove around and putting them in different stores. It was someone who was very organized and his thinking was organized. He planned it out. He needed a vehicle, he needed a route. A mentally ill person could not do that and then get everything together, get a car, travel with it, deliver. So this is a very well
Agreed. Yeah.
executed murder. The killer was methodical, patient, and precise, which is freaky.
Very patient. Could you imagine doing something like that and being like, "Okay, I'm just gonna sit back and watch now"?
And he would have to, or she would have to have gloves and just be careful it didn't get on themselves.
I'm just thinking about Breaking Bad in the beginning when they were like, trying to figure out what to do and the body was coming aciding or like fuck, coming apart in the tub and then the tub falls through this floor and then they
Decomposing,
have
yeah.
that body decomposing, yes, because they poured acid or whatever and it was just a fucking mess. This person was like,
Gross.
I have you watched Breaking Bad?
No.
You gotta watch Breaking Bad. They put the body in the tub and they put a bunch of acid and stuff, but then they don't know what to do. So then the body and the tub is starting to decompose, like eat away, and then it falls through the floor. And it, oh my God, it's a fucking mess.
Oh my God. How do you
You
even
guys should
hide
watch.
that?
You guys should
That's
watch Breaking Bad. It's actually great.
that's disgusting. I'm gonna just
I
Google that
know.
one scene.
You should.
Well, okay, so it wasn't until Tuesday, October 5th, Johnson and Johnson recalled all Tylenol products nationwide. So the whole week goes by, basically, because
Jesus
it took them that
Christ.
long to kind of put the pieces together. And just so you're picturing the correct type of pill. They're the capsules that you get. So they're not like what we have now, like the gel or solid red pill. They're the ones that
Mm.
they would open up. Do you know what I mean?
Oh shit. That's
So they're,
scary. Okay.
yeah, they're the capsule
Yeah.
where you could pull them apart and dump them. So that's kind of how it was. So he would pull them apart, fill them with cyanide, and put them back together.
It
So,
makes me think that he's a pharmaceutical rep or something like that. I
oh
don't really know
yeah.
how they distributed Tylenol back when it was big. Right now, we you can get Tylenol anywhere.
Well, this was
And
like
it's
what
like,
they heard then too.
but then did pharmaceutical reps advertise Tylenol anymore? Or did they in the past? And then this guy's like a rep and he's bringing in all these, or does he work at the plant for Tylenol distribution? That's what's making me think that he is, and it's really freaky.
Yeah, they kind of thought that too, but I'll get there because they kind of were thinking it was somebody who was mad at Johnson and Johnson, a former employee, and they wanted to fuck with their
Yeah,
sales.
see? Okay.
That was kind of their thoughts too.
Let's just
And
fuck with
so
their sales. Okay, let's
by
murder
murdering
people.
thousands, because it only seven, well, I shouldn't say only, but seven people died, but it could have been way more.
Holy, what a way to get back at a company. There's so many other ways rather than just, you know what? Fuck them. They are gonna lose money.
Yeah, but they don't know if that, we don't know if that was actually his motive, but that would be
Okay,
really
okay.
fucked up. The public was asked to turn into the police any bottles of Tylenol they feared could be tainted so that the FBI could analyze them. And they discovered that there were enough cyanide in the recovered bottles to poison more than 100 people. Johnson & Johnson recalls all Tylenol products, 31 million bottles valued at more than $100 million of Tylenol products were removed from the shelves nationwide, and Chicago police go through the streets with loudspeakers warning residents of the dangers of taking Tylenol. Like
Oh, that's scary.
it was a big, and I bet you people who are a bit older than us that lived in that area would remember this because it was
Of
like they were
course.
going through the streets with speakers.
That always scares the shit out of me. Just apocalyptic kind of
Yeah, like
vibes really freaks
get
me
that
out.
that alarm or something. Yeah.
Ooh, yeah, like the tornado alarms in places that
Ugh.
fucking scares me.
So the only good thing about this was Johnson and Johnson were on board with this. They when they found out their pills were causing deaths, they were like, let the people know, we're not keeping this quiet. You know how some big corporations would
Of
try to
course,
sweep stuff
yeah.
under the rug? Yeah.
It's not our
They had
fault.
yeah, they weren't keeping quiet. They didn't try to sweep anything under the rug. They also posted a reward for $100,000 for any information that would lead to the capture of this,
Ooh,
yeah, of the perpetrator.
okay.
It appeared to the investigators that the motive was anger, but who could the killer be mad at? He's just killing
Yes, there's a
random
lot of
people.
people, yeah.
The first thing detectives considered was a disgruntled employee or a former employee trying to hurt the company. Also, all kinds of people who had access to cyanide, so jewelry store owners, for example. A whole month goes by and they're getting fake leads because, $100,000 going to motivate people to call in and
Oh,
be
yeah.
dicks, right?
Yeah.
The whole month goes by, and in October of 82, a man writes a letter to the Tylenol manufacturer Johnson and Johnson, and it read, "For $1 million, I'll stop the killing." The author of the
Okay,
note,
dick.
yeah, a ransom note, right? The author of the note also listed a bank account where he wanted the funds to be deposited, which is stupid because they can find out who
Well,
the
that's why I'm
account
like,
belongs
yeah,
to, right?
okay.
Yeah, the account belonged to an Illinois travel agency on the north side, right where the murders happened. A second ransom note was received at the White House, and it was addressed to the president of the time, Ronald Reagan. And in that note, the writer urges the president to please use his influence to get Johnson & Johnson to pay the $1 million ransom. And the writer also said if the White House didn't do this, he would bomb the White House with little remote control planes.
Yeah, okay, you fucking loser.
I can just imagine
Oh my
some like
God.
nerd flying little planes into the White
He's like,
House.
Johnson and Johnson is not heeding my warning.
No, Kristen is fucking crazy. So the writer of the note also left a partial fingerprint though.
Of course he
And
did.
that was,
Okay.
yeah, on accident. Because up to this point, this person is very meticulous, right?
Yeah. His anger is clouding him, writing a letter to the White House to use your influence to.
yeah, give me my $1 million.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, the technology wasn't available at the time to go through a database of fingerprints. So detectives had to do a hand search through FBI fingerprint files.
Oh
And so that
fuck.
that would take a lot of time, like going
Oh
through
my
every.
God.
While detectives were searching for the fingerprint, other agents went to the travel agency where the bank account was linked to.
Mhm.
However, when they got there, it didn't take long for them to realize someone was trying to frame the owner of the business. It became apparent very quickly he was not the guy they were looking for. They're
Mhm.
thinking, someone really hates you, man. Like, who do you think that could be?
Yeah.
Um,
It's too easy.
yeah, he's like, no one hates me. I don't know. And then this is kind of funny because one of the employees actually overheard this going on. How could you
Mhm.
not? He steps in and says, there is someone who actually doesn't like you very much. I'm like,
We
I'm
talk
like,
about
that
it
would
all
be
the
your
time.
day. Yeah. Like, actually, everyone fucking hates you, boss.
Actually, you're a fucking dick.
No one likes you.
Like,
Sorry.
just heads up, you should think a little harder on that.
Yeah.
Oh my
Um,
God.
I guess there was a woman named Leanne who used to work at the travel agency, and apparently the owner short paid her $50 on her last paycheck. And he's aggravated her husband. He was crazy mad about it, obsessive mad about it. Before they moved 5 months earlier, he made it very clear he was really angry and he wouldn't let it go and he was going to get his revenge, apparently.
What the
This
fuck?
leads us to Robert Richardson. That was a husband's name. So that evening, it was on like all over the news that the FBI was looking for Robert Richardson. This was our perpetrator. This is our guy. Does anybody know this guy? And lo and behold, a detective in Kansas saw the picture of this Robert Rogerson on the TV, the suspect, and called the
Mhm.
Tylenol task force. And he told them, that guy you're looking for, I know who he is. I arrested him as a suspect in a murder, and his name is not Robert Richardson.
Nice, okay.
Dun,
Fuck,
dun,
that's
dun.
crazy.
And that's where we're ending for today. No,
Yeah,
his
goodbye.
name, yeah, this has been a 20-minute episode.
With a
His
massive cliffhanger.
Yeah, we just didn't have the time. His name was actually James Lewis. This guy, James, he has quite a colorful background. He was charged in 1978 in Kansas City for murder after police found the remains of one of his former clients in his attic, like just cut up
Ay,
completely.
ay, ay, ay.
Yeah,
Okay. Just
he's got a
decomposing in his
dismembered
attic.
man. Yeah, chilling in
Oh,
his
and he
attic.
dismembered him.
Yeah.
You gotta be you gotta be fucked up to kill somebody, but to dismember a body
But he
is
was never charged for it
fucked.
because
Oh, okay. So
they
he
didn't have
just,
never they never had enough evidence to prove it was him. The guy's name was
that's
Raymond
fucked.
West and he was 72. He had hired Lewis as an accountant. However, the charges were dismissed because West's cause of death was not determined and some evidence had been illegally obtained. They probably trespassed or something.
Okay, I don't want to keep interrupting you, but seriously, okay, is there just a group of individuals out there who have dismembered people and are walking because there's not enough evidence? Because that's fucked.
Well, apparently
If you were caught with a dismembered body, oh my God.
in your attic, and what the fuck are you doing keeping it in there? Or like, and how, and
Oh,
even if you didn't do it and it was there, you would smell it, or you know
oh,
what I mean?
you can't claim I didn't know.
Yeah, but apparently the evidence was illegally obtained, which seems so fucked up to have possibly murderers running around just because some evidence of them murdering was illegally obtained, but that's like admissible in court.
Right.
Doesn't make any
Right.
sense. That was dropped and done. James, however, however convicted of 6 counts of mail fraud in 1981 in a 1981 credit card scheme in Kansas City, accused of using the name and background of a former tax client to obtain 13 credit cards.
Oh my God.
So
Yeah, no one's gonna suspect you, you dummy.
yeah, so he's not exactly innocent. Once detectives had that information, they were able to get the fingerprints from Kansas City and compare them to the partial one found on the extortion note, and it was a match.
Yay. Wow.
Yeah, detectives are thinking now that information, whoever wrote the ransom note could be capable of murder. They're thinking he is because of this body that they found.
Well, I was gonna say it's not very far-fetched when you're caught with a dismembered body.
The investigation progresses as if James is the Tylenol murderer, James Lewis. And James and his wife were eventually found in New York City and brought in for questioning. Everything they owned, including financial records, their clothes, they were all searched. So basically, the entire contents of their apartment in New York was sent to the FBI lab looking for traces of either cyanide and Tylenol. There was no credible evidence linking either of them to the murders, which is weird, right?
Okay, yeah. Okay.
However, James Lewis here was convicted of extortion, and while in his jail cell awaiting sentencing, he contacted the case agent and the prosecutor of the extortion case to offer his assistance in helping them solve the Tylenol murders. Yeah, he says, quote,
Okay.
I can tell you what I think happened, but of course I didn't do it, is what he says.
So I don't know for sure, but I think I can help you. Enough
Yeah,
valuable
so
information to get out.
yeah, they're like, okay, like, come and tell us. They ask him, how do you think he actually got the cyanide into the Tylenol capsules? And James responded very specifically saying, quote, what I think the guy probably did is he had a wooden breadboard and drilled multiple holes all over it. Each hole was slightly smaller than the diameter of the Tylenol capsule. So, using tweezers and wearing gloves, he holds each end of the capsule, separates it, and pours the cyanide on one end of the breadboard, and using a cake knife spreads the powdered cyanide across the breadboard so that the powder fell into the capsules. Then he's very careful to reassemble the tainted capsules, put them in the bottle, screw the lid on, put it in a box, and go deliver them.
Just
Like
the most specific
way to do it
idea of what could have happened I've ever heard.
ever. I wouldn't even think of that. It has a
Wowza. Yeah.
breadboard and drills holes into it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, in
And
the middle,
tweezers
and
and
tweezers, gloves, of course, in the middle of telling the investigators this without it having anything to do with the conversation, he blurts out that jewelry cleaning was used, which is blurts
right.
out jewelry. So in many jewelry businesses use cyanide to clean gold, which we mentioned. And so he had not even asked about cyanide use. Or he had not even been asked why cyanide was used. He just
Just
bursted
offered,
out,
yeah.
or yeah, blurts out. Next, they asked him, why do you think the killer did it? And this is when he becomes angry and he points his finger at them and he said, I think he was righting a wrong, getting revenge,
Yeah, okay.
righting a wrong. But it wasn't me, of course. What do we know about James Lewis's background? You may be asking in your head, but
Yeah.
not out loud. He was adopted as a very young child, and his adoptive parents eventually became fearful of him. As a teenager, he broke his father's ribs. We don't know why. His mother was so frightened of him, she slept with a gun underneath her pillow. So, what the fuck? He also chased his mother around the house with an axe, apparently. And
These were
then
his adopted parents that he was doing this to. Fucking give him back.
yeah.
Have a
And then
nice
I just
life.
learned this while I learned this while researching this case, the connection between violent teens assaulting their parents and later like bad acts in childhood is very strong, which is I guess probably duh if you're
Well,
a
yeah.
violent teen.
Well, that's just it, yeah.
Specifically it said assaulting their parents though. So
Hmm.
anyway, his parents tried to do the right thing actually and took him to a psychiatrist when he was a teenager. And that's where he was diagnosed with schizophrenia or diagnosed as schizophrenic. However, back then, schizophrenia was kind of just a blanket diagnosis, basically.
Yeah.
If a psychiatrist couldn't find another diagnosis where the person could be hospitalized and treated, they would frequently just say a person was schizophrenic.
Well,
Isn't
and I
that
mean,
crazy?
I'm not, I guess I'm not really super surprised because I mean, when you said that his parents took him to see a psychologist to see if there was anything wrong, I mean, that's great that they did that. But in that time, I just
It
don't
didn't do
know
anything.
how much good it would do. Yeah, because they were just, even before that, I mean, you could send people to insane like asylums for anything, for freaking postpartum depression. You could go
That's true.
be checked into an asylum and then you would never really be treated for what you need. You just be blanket treated and be in some sort of psychosis for forever. So I mean, it's good that he went, but again, if you're not being diagnosed with what's actually wrong, you're just gonna amplify it. That
Yeah, like
sucks.
how they used to give people lobotomies if they were autistic or something like that.
Well, exactly.
Yeah, that's scary. And so there's no actual indication that he is or was schizophrenic. He didn't suffer from delusion. He didn't hear voices. He wasn't
Yeah.
schizophrenic, but he was troubled, obviously, for most of his life. Police in 1983 described James Lewis as a chameleon who lived in several states, used at least 20 aliases, and held many jobs, including computer specialist, tax accountant, importer of Indian tapestries, and a salesman
Okay.
of jewelry, pharmaceutical
Oh.
machinery, and real
Oh.
estate.
Wow, look at this
Those were all
guy.
his jobs. What the
Wow.
hell?
Okay, first of all, the jewelry cleaning and the pharmaceutical thing, but also when you were like chameleon, that just gives me the creeps. And also, it makes me think of
Ted
Scully.
Bundy?
And no,
Oh,
it makes me think of Scully and from the X-Files, the
yeah.
chameleon episode. That's so
Oh,
creepy. Ugh, just gives me the shivers. You gotta watch it.
then later on, so in 1992, he did an interview with the Associated Press explaining that the account he'd given authorities that I just told you about was
Mhm.
simply his way of explaining the killer's actions. He said, quote, I was doing like I would have done for a corporate client, making a list of possible scenarios, he said. He called the killer a heinous, cold-blooded killer and a cruel monster. James later did admit to sending those letters demanding the money because, well, his fingerprint was on them. But he
Mhm.
said he never intended to collect it. He said he wanted to embarrass his wife's former employee or former employer by having the money sent to the employer's bank account. He admits to sending the letters, but not actually committing the crime of tapering with the Tylenol. That's kind of weird, right? He sees this
Well,
huge.
I don't know. I feel like at the same time, maybe he is I don't know if he is or not at this point, but also it sounds like he's the kind of guy, just from the small amount of information you've given me. I'm bouncing off of that and just thinking he kind of seems maybe the type of guy that could take 50 bucks and amplify it into this massive issue and do
Right?
something kind of weird, but not actually have intentions to take it a step further. You know
But
what I
like,
mean? But
why
also
would
his
you?
account of what because he has the background of those jobs, he could be like, well, that's what I think this guy did if he was gonna do it in his house.
But he's so smart.
I
It's
don't know.
you would think that he would have the wherewithal to assume that if he got caught by sending these letters, he's going to look really fucking
Yes.
suspicious. Like
Agreed.
you'd think
Yes.
he would know that.
I
So,
don't know. It's
anyways,
really weird.
he's always denying any role in the Tylenol deaths, but remained a suspect. And in 2010, gave DNA samples to the FBI. He even created a website in which he said he was framed, even providing an alibi, saying that him and his wife were living in New York at the time of the poisonings. And in the end, no one's been charged in the deaths of the 7 people who took the over-counter painkillers laced with cyanide.
Is he still around?
I'll let you know. But no one's ever been charged. And James Lewis served more than 12 years in prison for sending an extortion note to the manufacturers Johnson & Johnson demanding the 100 millions to stop killing. He was released in 1995. Him and his wife moved to Massachusetts. And in the aftermath of all this, going back in time now in 1982,
Mhm.
within 5 weeks of the incident, Tylenol started placing some sort of tamper-proof product on the market. And in 1983, Corboy and Demetrio filed lawsuits against Johnson & Johnson on behalf of the families of the 3 victims. That year, the Tylenol bill was passed, making it a federal offense to tamper with products, which, I mean, why is it not before? Why wasn't it there before?
Right.
In 89, the FDA established tamper-proof guidelines. In 1991, on the eve of the trial of the Corboy and Demetrio, and attorney Leonardo Ring, who represented the other victims' family, negotiated a confidential settlement for the families of all the victims. We don't know what they got out of it.
I mean, good, because they need to deal with the most sudden, confusing death of their family members, and still to this day, that's so weird.
I wonder how much Johnson Johnson had to actually pay out though. I wonder. And like
I mean,
back
I
then,
am curious. Yes, yeah. Because even now
and
they're a massive company.
it more, I don't
Hmm.
even know, it didn't really hurt them. It more just pass these bills, and now we have tamper-proof bottles and
Which is
everything.
great. Yeah.
Yeah. An update on James here. In 2004, he is a disgusting man, like we were saying. He was charged with rape, kidnapping, and
Oh
other
my.
offenses for an
He's like
alleged
a jack
attack.
of all trades when it comes to a horrible crime. He ranges from dismembered bodies to a jack of all trades and jobs to rape
Poisoning
and
pills,
kidnapping and
possibly,
poisoning. Like what?
but never accused of it. It's another one that he didn't. He was charged, but his charges were later dropped. He was jailed
Mm.
for 3 years while awaiting trial, but prosecutors dismissed the charges on the day of his trial was scheduled to because the victim refused. She refused to testify.
Well, of course she refused to testify.
It's just another thing he got away with, like allegedly did, and allegedly got away with it.
Yeah.
In February of 2009, after Illinois authorities renewed the investigation, they've reopened the Tylenol investigation in 2009, and the FBI seized computers and other items in Lewis's home. The FBI's Chicago office at the time cited advanced in forensic technology and said it, along with the Illinois State Police and local police departments, was conducting a complete review of all the evidence developed in the connection with the killings. It's still open. They're still investigating it. And just in July 9th, 2023, officers, firefighters, and EMTs responded to a report of an unresponsive person at about 4 p.m. And on that Sunday, they found James Lewis dead in his Cambridge, Massachusetts home. He's dead. Cambridge
Okay.
Police Superintendent Frederick Cabral said in a statement he was 76. Police said in a statement that he was dead. Following an investigation, Lewis's death was determined to be not suspicious, so they think he just died of old age. He's dead now. He died like not that long ago, 2 years ago, at 76. He got away with, I mean, allegedly, with all these crimes, and
Well,
it's
that's
still
like
unsolved.
quite a resume of crimes that he got away with. And I can't get over the whole he had a dismembered body in his
Yeah, well,
attic and he's just
the
what
body
the
was there,
fuck?
but we can't say that he did
Well,
it.
we don't know if he did it, but
Allegedly.
it's just absurd.
Yeah, we don't even know if he did the Tylenol thing. But you know what's
Wow.
so crazy is that like got into this case, and then I was looking for a documentary about it for more information. And there's a
Yeah.
new one coming out in Netflix on Netflix. It'll be out.
Ooh.
It'll be out. It comes out 3 days before we put this episode out. It
Oh,
comes out
that's
on the
what you
20th.
were saying. Okay, I'm gonna have to
Yeah.
put that on my reminder. I always use the reminder thing on Netflix. I have to watch that.
Yeah, because it's going to be interesting to see videos and pictures and yeah.
Oh, I'm excited. Me and
Yeah, me
Dylan are
too.
gonna have to watch that.
I don't know. I don't know if Lewis did or not. He's clearly not a good guy.
I know, I wouldn't say he's a good, like, yeah, he's not a good guy, but I'm just not sure.
No, me
I
neither.
mean, the letters is weird. Why would you send letters like that? Well, after it happened, so he could have just been wanting to. I don't, see, now I'm gonna go
Yeah.
down a rabbit hole in my head.
Well, because I could have given you way more information because if you do go down a rabbit hole, there's connections to the Unabomber at the time.
Oh fuck. Yeah, that would take a long time to put an episode together of going down
Yeah.
every single avenue because I mean, even now you see it come up.
Wait, there's not evidence of the Unabomber. But there's speculation, and people have gone in
Yes, yeah.
thinking like the Unabomber might
Mhm.
be behind all the Tylenol
Yeah.
killings too. So
Yeah.
it's like crazy
I'm
shit.
excited
Anyway,
to watch it. Okay.
that
Well,
is all I
do
have for this week.
remember, it's a dark world out there.
See you,
See you
creatures,
creatures
next
next week.
week.